Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. You're not cursed. You're not broken. You're not destined to suffer in love or run in circles with people who drain you. But if your heart keeps landing in the same kind of pain, if the story keeps rewriting itself with different names, but the same ending, then no, that's not just coincidence. That's a pattern. And behind every pattern is a truth waiting to be exposed. You're not cursed, you're carrying cycles. Cycles you didn't start, but you've been keeping alive. Cycles of settling, cycles of people pleasing, cycles of trying to earn the very love you deserve freely. Cycles where your worth is measured by how much you can endure instead of how deeply you are cherished. And let's be real, some of those cycles didn't begin with you. They were modeled in silence. A mother who stayed, a father who vanished, a home where apologies never came, but manipulation did. You were taught that love means sacrificing your voice, that loyalty means shrinking yourself, and that pain means it's working. But you see, a lie repeated in your childhood becomes a belief in your adulthood until you choose to confront it. Let me be clear. You're not attracting the wrong people because you're unworthy of love. You're attracting what you believe you deserve. And if deep down your soul has been trained to settle, to perform, to prove, then what shows up in your life will mirror that internal script. But that ends today, because the moment you get tired, I mean truly tired of repeating the same heartbreak in different clothes, is the moment your healing begins. That's when your standards rise. Not the list you post on social media. I'm talking about your energetic boundaries, your emotional gates, your soul level yes and no. That's when you start filtering access through discernment, not loneliness. Listen to me. Desperation will always attract deception. The thirst for connection without self-awareness becomes a magnet for confusion. It's not just about who shows up, it's about who you let in. And if you're still measuring someone's potential while ignoring their patterns, you're not dating a partner. You're babysitting a project, and projects don't love you back. The truth is, you're not cursed, you're misaligned. You've been tuned to chaos so long that peace feels suspicious. You chase passion, but you ignore peace. You fall for spark, but forget to check for safety. And let's not pretend some of us confuse trauma bonding with chemistry. You think you're falling in love, but really, you're just dancing with a familiar wound. You're reliving the rejection you never healed from. You're chasing the validation you never got. You're trying to rescue someone so they'll finally see your worth. But you were never supposed to audition for love in the first place. And maybe the hardest pill to swallow is this. Sometimes you attract the wrong ones. Not because you're weak, but because you haven't seen yourself clearly in a very long time. You forgot who you are. You forgot what you carry. You forgot that you were the prize before anyone ever showed up. You keep trying to fix people so you don't have to fix the loneliness in yourself. But no one can heal the parts of you that you keep outsourcing. You can't love someone into loving you. You can't pour your everything into someone and expect it to fill the hole inside of you. It doesn't work like that. You want to stop attracting the wrong ones. Stop living like you're starving for love. You were not born to beg. You were born to choose. You were born to become the version of you who no longer waits to be chosen because she finally chooses herself. Let me tell you something. When you start choosing yourself, everything shifts. When you start showing up whole, not perfect but healed, you'll notice how your standards stop bending for people who aren't even trying. You'll notice how silence becomes more attractive than drama, how your peace feels more sacred than proving your worth. You start walking away quicker, not because you're bitter, but because you're clear. Clarity is what ends cycles. And clarity comes when you sit still long enough to hear your own truth again. You're not cursed, you just haven't been honest with yourself. Honest about why you stayed. Honest about what you tolerated. Honest about the part of you that was so afraid to be alone, that you welcomed confusion just to avoid silence. But hear me, peace is not the absence of love. Peace is the proof that love exists. The right love will never make you feel like you're too much. The right love will never manipulate you into staying. The right love will feel safe, not because it lacks excitement, but because you no longer confuse anxiety with butterfly. You were not created to be someone's emotional punching bag. You were not designed to endure love as a battlefield. You're not someone's therapist. You're not their second chance. You're not a placeholder until they grow up. You are a home, a haven, a healer, a woman or man of deep work. And it's time you start living like it. Because when you do, the wrong ones lose their access. They don't even see you anymore because you've elevated beyond their reach. When you truly step into your healed self, people who only recognize your broken version won't even know how to approach you. That's not arrogance, that's growth. You don't owe anyone your peace just because they're familiar. Familiar doesn't mean healthy, and history doesn't mean destiny. Sometimes the best thing you can do is burn the bridge that kept leading you back to your own destruction. Because love isn't a prison, it's a partnership. And if it doesn't come with mutual respect, mutual effort, and mutual healing, then it's not love, it's dependency dressed in a love costume. Let me say this loud for the people in the back. You're not cursed. You are powerful. You are magnetic. You are whole. But you've got to own it. You've got to stop romanticizing dysfunction. You've got to stop editing yourself just to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You've got to stop being so accessible to people who have not earned proximity to your heart. Because the truth is, not everyone deserves a front row seat to your soul. Some people were only meant to observe from the back. Others were never meant to be in the room. And if you keep giving backstage passes to people who don't value the show, you're gonna keep feeling empty, no matter how loud they clap. You wanna change who you attract. Start with what you believe. Start with how you talk to yourself. Start with how you show up when no one is watching. Because self-love is not a spa day. It's not a quote on Instagram. It's how you honor your soul behind closed doors. It's how you say no without guilt. It's how you stop chasing and start receiving. You're not cursed, you're chosen. But chosen people still have to choose themselves every day. They have to say no to what doesn't align. They have to walk away even when their heart wants to stay. They have to believe that something better is coming, even when it's not here yet. And that's the part nobody talks about, the in-between. The space where you've let go of the wrong but the right hasn't shown up yet. That's when it gets real. That's when the temptation to go back is loudest. That's when your faith is tested. But that's also when your breakthrough is closest. Because in that space you learn that your value never depended on who stayed. You learn that your worth was never measured by someone's confusion. You learn that love isn't something you earn. It's something you align with. So here's the truth. If you want real love, become real with yourself. Heal the parts of you that keep choosing pain. Forgive the parts of you that stayed too long. And thank the past, because without those lessons, you wouldn't have become this version of you. The version who finally gets it. You're not cursed, you're awakening. And when you awaken, the wrong ones can't find you anymore. Not because you're hiding, but because you've evolved. And baby, evolved people don't chase. They attract by being who they truly are. So take your power back, reclaim your peace, guard your heart, raise your standards, and don't you ever again apologize for choosing you. Because when you do, you don't just stop attracting the wrong ones, you finally create room for the right one to arrive, and this time, you'll be ready. But let's go even deeper. One of the biggest lies you've been told is that being loved is a matter of luck, that it just happens to some people and skips others. No, the truth. Love is not a lottery, it's a mirror, and the way you love yourself sets the tone for how others are allowed to love you. So if you've been giving discounts on your soul, don't be surprised when people show up looking for bargains. Your life becomes expensive the moment you decide you're no longer available for confusion, half effort, or emotional crumbs. That's not pride, that's protection. You're protecting your peace, you're preserving your power, because every time you accept less, you're teaching your future that it has to survive on leftovers. You've got to ask yourself, what have I normalized in the name of keeping the peace? What have I tolerated under the label of love? Because the truth is, real love isn't heavy, it's not confusing, it's not cold one day and warm the next. Real love shows up consistently. Real love respects your boundaries. Real love doesn't make you question your sanity at 2 a.m. You want to stop the cycle? Stop romanticizing unpredictability. Stop convincing yourself that someone's chaos is evidence of passion, that someone's silence is mysterious. that someone's disregard means they're just damaged. Let's be honest, some people are not damaged. Some people are just selfish. And you've been trying to make it deep when it's actually just a dead end. And don't tell me, but I see the good in them. Of course you do. You're kind. You've got vision. But seeing someone's potential is not the same as living in their reality. Your heart has been so trained to nurture that you keep building castles on quicksand, but you cannot fix someone's broken character with your consistent love. That's not loyalty. That's self-betrayal. This is where self-respect becomes non-negotiable. Because the version of you that keeps attracting brokenness is the version of you that's still looking for healing in the arms of another. But you weren't created to heal through heartbreak. You were created to heal through truth, through alignment, through inner work, through becoming so whole that peace is no longer negotiable. Let's talk about standards. Not the ones you announce, but the ones you enforce. Do you have the courage to leave when someone shows you they're not ready? Do you have the discipline to walk away from what excites you but doesn't edify you? Because if you don't, you'll spend your life entertained but empty, stimulated but starving, in relationships that feel full of movement but void of meaning. You keep wondering why you're not being chosen, but maybe the lesson isn't about being chosen. Maybe it's about learning to choose wisely. There's a difference. Being chosen without clarity is a trap, but choosing from a place of identity, that's freedom. Freedom is knowing who you are when no one's clapping. Freedom is knowing what you deserve, even when you're lonely. Freedom is saying no to a warm body when your soul is cold in their presence. And yes, that means you might be single longer than you hope. You might spend holidays answering questions about your relationship status. You might cry some nights wondering when your person will arrive. But I promise you this, silence is better than sorrow. Peace is better than pretending. And alignment is better than attention. You are not unlucky in love. You are evolving in your awareness. And evolution always costs you comfort. So let me challenge you right now. Take a bold inventory. Who in your life are you holding on to out of habit, not harmony? What version of love have you been settling for because you feared starting over? And most importantly, when was the last time you asked yourself, what kind of love am I building within me? Because the most dangerous love is not toxic love, it's unconscious love. Love that is given without thought, shared without boundaries, received without filters. You end up absorbing whatever energy enters your space without knowing if it aligns with your values. But that stops today. Today, you no longer seek validation. You become validation. You no longer wait to be loved. You become love in human form. You no longer chase red flags and call them passion. You name it, claim it, and walk away from it. Because love is not the absence of flaws. It's the presence of accountability. It's two people walking in the same direction, not dragging each other to healing, not bleeding on each other's hope, not projecting old wounds onto new beginnings. You can't build a healthy love while still carrying emotional debt. So cancel the debts you've been trying to repay with your peace. You don't owe anyone your future just because they were part of your past. You don't owe anyone forever just because you once said always. You don't owe them your joy. You don't owe them your potential. Your only obligation now is to become the version of you that stops the cycle once and for all. That version of you, she's strong, he's clear, they're grounded. They know how to walk away with dignity. They know how to say no without explanation. They don't answer calls from confusion. They don't flirt with what hurt them. They don't entertain what drains them. And when that version of you shows up, oh, you'll start attracting differently. You'll see how peace becomes your compass. You'll feel how quickly you detect manipulation. You'll sense how your spirit rejects chaos like analogy. Because finally your soul will remember this is what love is supposed to feel like. Not a battlefield, not a mystery, not a war zone, but a place where you can breathe. You're not cursed. You're finally ready to break the pattern. There comes a moment, a quiet, piercing moment, where you realize that love alone isn't enough. Not when it lacks clarity, not when it lacks consistency, not when it asks you to silence your voice, dim your light, or carry the entire relationship on your back just to keep it from collapsing. You've done that too long. You've clung to half-hearted love, hoping it would grow into something whole. But the truth is, when someone gives you pieces, it's not your job to glue them into a future. You've mistaken endurance for compatibility. Just because you survived them doesn't mean you were meant to build with them. Sometimes your biggest blessing is the one that walks away. Sometimes the heartbreak is the breakthrough. Not because pain is noble, but because pain is honest. It reveals what you denied. It pulls back the curtain on the parts of you that kept making excuses for poor behavior. This is what healing requires: brutal self-honesty, the courage to admit you stayed for too long, the strength to acknowledge you kept showing up for someone who consistently made you feel unsafe. Not unsafe in body, but unsafe in soul. That place where your intuition whispered, "This isn't love," but your fear responded, "At least it's something." But something is not a reason to stay. You were created for more than fragments. Your spirit is too rich to dine on crumbs. Your dreams too expansive to shrink yourself into someone else's comfort zone. And that's the shift. When you realize love isn't just about what you give, it's also about what you allow. And when you stop allowing chaos, you make room for peace to enter and stay. Many people don't find peace because they keep confusing peace with boredom. But peace isn't the absence of passion. It's the presence of emotional maturity. Peace is knowing that when they say they'll call, they actually will. Peace is not having to decode every text. Peace is trusting their consistency, not questioning their silence. And that right there is priceless. But if chaos is all you've known, peace will feel suspicious. You'll call it too quiet, too slow. You'll think there must be something wrong. This is too easy. No, my friend, that's not ease. That's alignment. That's what it feels like when your nervous system isn't constantly in fight or flight. That's what it feels like when your body can finally exhale. But to get there, you must unlearn what you thought love was. Love is not tension. It's not the adrenaline of uncertainty. It's not proving your worth by staying longer than you should. Love does not ask you to erase your identity. It doesn't punish you for having standards. It doesn't belittle your emotions. If anything, it sees your soul fully and leans in close. And let's be honest, sometimes the wrong ones aren't the villains. They're just misaligned. They can't meet you where you're going because they're still orbiting who you used to be. And if you're not careful, you'll confuse history with destiny. But just because you've known someone forever doesn't mean they're equipped to walk with you into forever. Relationships aren't held together by time. They're held together by truth. And the truth is, you've outgrown what used to feel like home. And that's okay. Growth will always require release. You're not heartless for moving on. You're not ungrateful for expecting more. You're simply becoming. And when you become, truly become, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop twisting yourself into versions that fit someone else's preference. You stop shrinking to be chosen. Instead, you rise. You rise in how you speak to yourself. You rise in the rooms you enter. You rise in how you set boundaries. You rise in how you allow yourself to be treated. And when you rise, the wrong ones fall away. Not because you forced them out, but because they were never meant to breathe in the altitude of your healing. Healing elevates you, and elevation will always make the uncommitted uncomfortable. It will test the ones who are only there for the version of you that kept apologizing for needing more. But don't lower yourself again just to keep the peace. Don't dilute your light to comfort the insecure. Don't reopen the door you locked just because someone knocks louder this time. Remember, persistence is not proof of transformation. Just because they come back doesn't mean they've changed. Sometimes people return, not to love you better, but to see if you're still available to be broken. Your job is not to test their sincerity. Your job is to protect your peace. Peace is sacred. It's expensive. And once you've fought to find it, you stop trading it for temporary attention. You're no longer flattered by someone who shows up with sweet words and no action. You're no longer moved by potential. You wait for evidence. You pay attention to energy. You trust consistency. And most of all, you trust yourself. You no longer need someone to tell you who you are. You've met yourself. And the version of you that finally knows her worth is powerful beyond measure. This isn't just about relationships. It's about identity. Because once you know who you are, you stop attracting anything that insults it. You stop answering calls from confusion. You stop playing small and you stop begging for the love that already exists within you. That's the shift. Not begging, becoming. You become your own closure, your own reassurance, your own validation. And from that place, the love that finds you will not feel like a rescue. It will feel like a reflection. It will mirror your wholeness. It will amplify your joy. It will add to what you already carry. And isn't that the point? To be so grounded in your truth that love becomes an overflow, not a search party. To be so anchored in your peace that partnership becomes a bonus, not a bandage. To be so aligned in your purpose that you no longer need someone to complete you, only someone to walk with you. This is your invitation to grow, to let go, to stand tall in your clarity and never again bend for breadcrumbs. To become the version of you who doesn't just survive love but thrives in it. Because the love that's coming will not be confusing. It will not be filled with doubt. It will not leave you questioning your value. The love that's coming will feel like home, not a storm, but only if you're brave enough to stop dancing in the rain and start building your shelter. You're not cursed, you're called. And now that you've remembered who you are, the cycle has no choice but to break. There is a quiet revolution happening inside you. The kind that doesn't announce itself with fireworks or applause. The kind that builds in stillness, in long nights, in honest moments when you finally tell yourself the truth. Not the curated version, not the one you tell your friends to protect your pride, but the raw truth. That truth is this: you're not angry at them anymore. You're angry at yourself for knowing better and staying anyway. But even that anger is sacred, because it means your soul is awake now. You've stopped blaming everyone else for your pain and you've started looking inward. You've stopped asking why they left and started asking why you kept chasing people who never arrived. That's growth. That's maturity. That's the beginning of emotional freedom, taking full responsibility for who you've become and where you're going next. You've lived long enough in survival mode, trying to earn love through sacrifice, tolerating disrespect in the name of compassion, convincing yourself that maybe if you love them harder, they'll finally treat you right. But let's be honest, love without reciprocity is self-erasure. You lose little pieces of yourself, one compromise at a time, and then you wake up wondering where your voice went. But that version of you, the one that whispered when you needed to roar, she's fading now. There's a new you emerging, one who no longer sees being alone as a punishment, but as a portal, a sacred space where identity is rebuilt, where clarity becomes currency, and where love no longer starts with them. It starts with you. You begin to see how sacred your time is, how valuable your peace is. You stop entertaining conversations that exhaust you. You stop explaining your standards to people who only intend to violate them. You stop asking broken mirrors to tell you who you are, because you now know anyone who truly loves you will not make you beg for basic things. Communication, consistency, kindness, respect, those aren't bonuses. They're the bare minimum. You deserve someone who doesn't flinch when you shine, who isn't intimidated by your healing, who sees your scars not as baggage but as proof that you fought to become whole. But for that kind of love to show up, you must become it first. You must become the person who no longer needs chaos to feel chemistry, the person who no longer needs saving because they finally learned to rescue themselves, the person who walks into rooms not searching but radiating, not begging but knowing, not performing but being. This is where everything changes. When you stop looking for someone to complete your story and start writing one so bold that the right person is inspired just to be part of it. That's magnetic. That's powerful. That's what happens when your life stops orbiting around relationships and starts expanding around purpose. You want to stop attracting the wrong ones. Get serious about your purpose, because purpose filters out the counterfeit. People who are only there to distract won't survive the gravity of someone who's on assignment. They'll fall away not because you force them to leave, but because you stop lowering your frequency to keep them around. Purpose changes your appetite. What used to thrill you now drains you. What used to excite you now repels you. You start craving substance, depth, realness. You start looking for someone who doesn't just match your vibe but mirrors your values. Someone who doesn't just make promises but makes plans. Someone who doesn't just want your body but wants to build a future with your mind, your soul, your essence. But to attract that, you must embody that. You must become the kind of person who doesn't ghost themselves anymore. No more abandoning your intuition. No more betraying your standards just to keep the peace. No more romanticizing potential while ignoring red flags waving in plain sight. You must return to you, to your truth, to your identity, to the version of yourself that existed before the world told you who you had to be in order to be loved. Strip it all back. Peel off the people-pleasing. Discard the shame. Burn the lies that told you you were too much, too emotional, too intimidating, too complicated. You are not too much. You were just too real for the places that couldn't hold you. And now you rise. You rise into spaces that can hold you, friendships that feed you, love that grows you, rooms that don't ask you to shrink, just to belong. You rise into a season where love is no longer a roller coaster, but a rhythm, where your heart is no longer tossed around by people who don't know how to hold it. You rise into standards so clear even confusion gets nervous trying to enter. And here's the secret. When you start operating at this level, when your clarity is this loud, you won't even have to chase what's meant for you. It will recognize you. It will honor you. It will feel like ease, not effort. It will feel like home, not a hostage situation. You won't have to beg someone to stay when you've become a place worth resting in. This kind of love, it won't compete with your healing. It will protect it. It won't be intimidated by your purpose. It will support it. It won't just tolerate your growth. It will celebrate it. But first, you must choose you. Not halfway, not in theory, not when it's convenient, fully, deeply, relentlessly. Because the final test isn't whether they love you. It's whether you love yourself enough to never again stay where you're not seen, heard, respected, and adored. It's whether you love yourself enough to walk away from the familiar in pursuit of the aligned. It's whether you're brave enough to say, I am no longer available for suffering disguised as love. You are not cursed. You are clearing. And when the clearing is complete, when the dust of your old patterns has finally settled, what arrives will not be another test. It will be the reward, the reflection, the love that doesn't take from you to feel powerful, the love that shows up whole because you finally did too. No more attracting the wrong ones, not because they disappeared, but because you did. You disappeared from the version of yourself that tolerated them. And that's how the cycle ends for good. The most dangerous kind of comfort is the one that disguises itself as loyalty. You convince yourself that staying is noble, that sacrificing your peace is romantic, that enduring mistreatment is what it means to be committed. But loyalty without reciprocity is self-abandonment. And you've been loyal to dysfunction long enough. You've clung to words while ignoring behavior. You've clung to promises written in sand. You've clung to the idea of who someone could become instead of accepting who they kept showing you they were. You knew it. Deep down, you always knew. But the silence in your soul scared you more than the chaos in their hands. But now you're no longer impressed by chaos. You're not moved by potential. You don't fall for grand entrances. You pay attention to exits. You watch how they treat your boundaries. You watch how they respond when you say no. That's where truth lives. Not in how they pursue you, but in how they honor you once they have access. Honor has become your new currency. If they can't honor your time, your body, your spirit, your mind, they're disqualified. Not because they're bad people, but because your peace is too expensive to be gambled on uncertainty. You are no longer available for half-truths and hollow connections because you now understand something profound. You are not hard to love. You've just been offering your heart to people who aren't equipped to hold it. It's not about being too much. It's about them being too small for what you carry. Your empathy is rare. Your loyalty is deep. Your capacity for love could flood deserts. And that kind of spirit cannot thrive in shallow soil. And so you're learning to protect your harvest, to guard your sacred, to refuse entry to anything that drains, distorts, or diminishes the masterpiece you are becoming. You're not bitter, you're discerning. You've stopped auditioning. You've stopped begging to be seen. You've stopped trying to fix people who refuse to face their own reflections. You've stopped confusing being needed with being loved. You stop calling obligation intimacy, and in doing so, you've taken your power back piece by piece. This is the version of you they didn't see coming. The version who answers her phone with clarity in her voice. The version who walks into a room and no longer wonders if she's enough. The version who doesn't just look healed, she is healed. The version who doesn't flinch when people leave because she understands that every exit makes room for divine alignment. You've outgrown explanations. You don't beg anyone to understand your value. You don't fear rejection. You embrace it because now you know that rejection is simply redirection. It's the universe's mercy in disguise. It's clarity with a sting. And what you've built through all of this, that inner fortress, that calm, rooted in truth, that unapologetic self-worth is your legacy. Because love is not just about romance. It's about energy. It's about who gets access. It's about who speaks to the deepest parts of you and says, I see you, without trying to change you. It's about who enters your life and doesn't create more storms, but becomes a shelter from them. But you only attract that kind of love once you've become it. Once your relationship with yourself is so honest, so compassionate, so rooted that anything less tastes sour in your mouth. Once you've built a home within yourself so complete, you no longer chase others to decorate it. Let them misunderstand you. Let them call you cold for walking away. Let them label you difficult for requiring depth. Let them say you're picky. You're not. You're just not available for lukewarm. You're not available for love that requires your silence. You're not available for dynamics that force you to explain your worth like a sales pitch. You are not a product, you are a presence. And the ones who are meant for you will feel your presence and be drawn, not to what you can give them, but to who you are at your core. So let the wrong ones fall off. Let the old chapters close. Let the loneliness come if it must, because temporary loneliness is far better than permanent disappointment. You've entertained what wasn't meant for you before. You survived it, but this time you won't just survive, you'll thrive. You've outgrown romanticizing chaos. You now crave clarity. You've outgrown competing for attention. You now expect intentionality. You've outgrown explaining your worth. You now embody it. You've outgrown mistaking bare minimums for blessing. You now recognize what sacred love looks and feels like, and you will never again betray yourself just to feel temporarily held. Your silence used to mean confusion. Now it means alignment. Your standards used to feel like walls. Now they are your wings. Your discernment used to make you feel cold. Now it keeps you warm. And most importantly, your solitude used to make you feel empty. Now it feels like home. This is your evolution. This is the version of you who no longer walks toward fire hoping it turns into warmth. This is the version of you who no longer waits for someone to pick her, because she has picked herself every single morning, in every single decision, in every sacred boundary enforced without apology. The wrong ones will stop finding you, not because they changed, but because you did. You don't walk the same roads. You don't vibrate on the same frequency. You don't even speak the same emotional language anymore. You're fluent in growth. You're fluent in respect. You're fluent in soul-level connection. And from here on out, love must rise to meet you. Not because you're better than anyone else, but because you finally believe you are enough and always have been. So here's to the ones who stopped running in circles, to the ones who stopped mistaking pain for purpose, to the ones who looked their own patterns in the face and said, no more. You're not cursed. You're the curse breaker. You are the one who decided it ends here. You are the one who chose clarity over comfort, growth over guilt, peace over pretending. You are the one who realized that love was never about fixing anyone. It was about remembering yourself. And now that you've remembered, you'll never again forget.